It's spinning! It's spinning! Jonathan Sexton!
Voting is live for our next round of 16 clash in our search for Ireland's most memorable sporting moment of the decade. Last night, the O'Donovan brothers joined Shane Long in the quarterfinals. Do we know, are they on the same side of the bracket? Is that now a quarterfinal?
Yes, everything we've done so far, we haven't even moved on to the other side of the bracket.
Right, so they all match?
Yeah.
This is all one side of the draw?
All on one side of the draw. So what are we? We're into day 3 of it. So today's winner will play tomorrow's winner. Monday will play Tuesday. So
today it is Shane Lowry versus Ireland beating the All Blacks for the very first time in their history in Chicago. So it's Shane Lowry's open win versus Ireland beating New Zealand in Chicago. What are you doing? You're shaking your hands.
You bounced this off me last week, didn't you? You actually totally threw me. Memory wouldn't be great and stuff, but Shane Lowry, with that third round in the British
Saturday.
Open, oh, for God's sake. I mean, that was absolutely spellbinding.
Yeah.
That was the final day. That felt like they should have been, shouldn't they? Should have flipped those 2 rounds around that final day in the tour. So that was it, wasn't it? The type of golf that he played, the sun was out, wasn't it?
There's a putt on the first green in the final pairing the next day that gets missed. That would have put a little bit of pressure on Lowry. That gets missed. He gets his for bogey, which was a tricky one, and that was it. Once that was done, it was like, you've only dropped 1 shot there. It could have been a big swing. It could have been a 3-shot swing, and that would have been, ooh, we're back on here. Anything's
That was
possible.
over. Yeah, that was over in the last round. The weather conditions that were coming in, we all knew the type of weather that was coming, the type of golf that he can play in those. It was all over for me after the tour. Might as well have given him the trophy there walking off the
I think after the first hole, you're right. But there was definitely, because it had happened to him before when he should have won the US Open, when he had a big lead, and there'd just been like, ooh. So there was just that just that little question, and once he nailed that putt for bogey on the first, it's like you're celebrating the bogey going, that's it. I agree with you, though. The Saturday performance was one of the greatest Irish performances on a world stage ever. That Saturday where you crushed the field, and it's like...
Yeah, the type of, yeah. If that had been, like the Sunday, you could say, the Americans can't play in that type of way, they're not used to. He was brought up on these courses and that he has the advantage over, but he didn't have the advantage over the rest of the field on the Saturday. I wouldn't say idea was blown a little bit, maybe sun was out, but there was no excuses there. It was 11 playing field with some of the best ball strikers and players in the world, and he was amazed just how he carried himself, his demeanour and the whole day. And
he was like really enjoying the Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Like the penultimate round, kind of big smile on his face coming down the 17th fairway, I think it was, and it's like, God, this almost looks like a victory lap, and there's still like 19 holes left to play when he was walking down the 17th. So
that couple of weeks, like the Carroll's Irish Open just prior to that, Lahinch was amazing. The last couple of years, that bounce from the Irish, when did that change? That bounce straight from the Irish Open. Have they narrowed that window?
Yeah.
The Scottish Open's come into it as well the last couple of...
So they've moved back. It's going to be in May next year. The Irish Open's going to be in May next year.
That run of golf the last couple of years, Irish Open, Scottish and British Open, is just can't stay away from it. Amazing.
Pretty good.
And the last 2 Carroll's Irish Opens for me, hands down, up in Donegal and Lahinch. Seriously, the Irish Tourist Board here, but absolutely phenomenal.
Showing your age there, Kenny. It was in the 80s. It was last called after a cigarette company. They banned cigarette advertising. Did you know that?
What's that?
What did you call the tournament?
The Carroll's Irish. Oh no, yeah. That's the old Tracy days, isn't it? John Tracy days.
Toasty. No, not anymore.
Des Smith.
I'm sure you can pick up some Carl cigarettes to Dubai duty free on your way through the airport.
Yeah. God, 200 pack for your ma, for your granny.
You were never a smoker, were you?
Oh God, no.
No, your body's a temple. He had a 63 that day. And the pictures, I'm just looking at some of them here, they're great. And it's mostly him with his hand in the air celebrating after like sinking another raking putt. It was pretty good.
Phenomenal. And then the aftermath, the boar's head, Clara, the grandmother, everything that came with that week was just special. It was one of the most warmly received Irish sporting successes ever.
Now, we've never beaten the All Blacks. They had won 17 games in a row, which was a record-breaking achievement. They were going to set the all-time record of 18 successive victories. It was still a team that was the World Cup champions. They were still riding that wave where they annihilated everybody with their best World Cup final performance, right? It was like an absolute 35-17, I think, and the Australians were lucky to get 17. It was a last-minute try to put a bit of respectability on the scoreline. And we hammered them. Like, in a scenario where we were leading the game, big lead, uh-oh, here they come, uh-oh, Sexton's gone off, uh-oh, our pool is depleted here, We've seen this movie before. They're about to score and they're about to win, and then we score 2 late tries. One with a brilliant bit of bravery and breakaway, and for the first time in our history ever, as a rugby nation, we beat this team.
And the reason why I bring up the couple of days after Shane Lowry is almost to lend some credence to the argument for the All Blacks, because I think context for all these moments is so important. And I think the Chicago element just adds to the mystique of it. Being there for the parade for the Chicago Cubs, you guys were there, I wasn't there. Being there, I would imagine, for the Chicago Cubs parade is pretty special. You mentioned the Donald Trump element. The autumn of 2016 was an interesting time to be in the United States of America. And then, of course, you had the Anthony Foley aspect of it as well, the figure of 8 in the face of the haka. It's an iconic sporting moment. It really, really is. It's very hard to make a case for it being more special than Shane Lowry or more memorable than Shane Lowry, but God, on its own merits as a standalone moment, I think everything about this is just spectacular. Like, people were talking about other rugby moments, like the All Blacks in Dublin perhaps being more special. I don't think so. I think that even from being on a different continent watching it just felt.
Do you think that enhanced it because it was in Chicago? So I would have thought it would have been the opposite. Did it not get the amount of coverage or that it should have done because it was so far away over in Chicago? Do you not think it was the opposite? In terms of the noise around the game? I know it was a great victory, but probably felt different for you. You're obviously there, but I'm saying for me, obviously, I didn't watch the game live, but it kind of heard the result. But you're talking about the second game in Dublin. We were all over it. You know, I was in Dublin, in the Aviva, whoosh. Everybody was on it. You know what I mean? It's in Dublin, like, as opposed to just the distance element to it in a funny way. For me, it just seemed a little bit more detached.
I don't think you need that. I think, like, we're also speaking about Shane Lowry achieving something in a different country as well. Granted, it's much closer to home, and there was a very...
Whoa. We're not. We're talking about Shane Lowry.
Ireland.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good point.
Not that far away.
Very good point.
Walk that back there quickly.
That's a complete brain fart.
Yes, it is. Yes.
No, but I think
it's the same country.
The Chicago thing, I think the fact that if you're in there, you got a flavour of it. You're talking about the other things around the game, absolutely. But for someone who was outside of it, back in, I can't remember where it was in Dublin or in the UK, it just seemed a little bit...
You were watching it.
Yeah. It just seemed a little bit more detached, the experience.
Actually, what am I talking like that? Just to clarify, of course, that was the reason why Shane Lowry was made more special, because it was an Irishman winning the British Open in Ireland.
Well said, Alan. Well said. Good comeback.
Classic comeback.
I can't believe I've got.
What's that, Dumpy? Out of context. I did say that, but I was wrong. Oh, you were wrong, were you? Yeah, I was wrong.
I did say that, and I was wrong. I'll say that. Honestly,
you did. You were wrong, were you?
I think the distance element of it. Well, it's not the distance of it. It's the fact that it was in Chicago. It's such a kind of novel place for a massive test match to have occurred. And
Soldier Field's a cool stadium.
Wind blown.
Yeah.
Windy city.
Yeah. It's called windy because the politicians jab so much, not because
not
it
so
actually...
much, yeah.
But I mean, it is also quite windy because of the lake. But they had a good team. They had a really good team.
Well, can you talk about that? Yeah, the calendar year that the All Blacks have put in, not many people would have expected them to have got humble in such a fashion. Now, the flip side of that is people talk about the All Blacks in those autumn tests and say, well, where was their headspace at? But I think on that particular year, trying to do... It was going for a perfect year, wasn't it? So, like, one more win and it would have been the perfect calendar year. So I think that there was a lot of incentive for them as well. Like, I don't know, maybe...
Do you think the comparison, though, in terms of individual achievement, like Shane Lowry's obviously, and obviously the team narrative in terms of the Irish rugby team, in terms of a comparison, I mean, you could talk them both up and rightly so, but in terms of which was greater than the other, for me, is very difficult, just by virtue of the fact that the team collective and the kind of the individual sport element to it, it's almost impossible.
That's why it's difficult, Kenny. It's nothing good in life ever came easy. Right, back to last night. Some people in the Off the Ball studio, some people thought that Paddock's arrest deserved a little bit more love.
You haven't given your opinion, though. You see, much like Dan McDonald last night, much like Anne-Marie once again, ready to give out about all this, but not willing to fully commit. Go on, Anne-Marie. Favourite moment of the last decade?
Just from the list.
I worry now that, Anne-Marie, you're going to go and say that you're so young you can't really remember some of the things that happened at the start of the decade.
No, Katie, obviously.
Okay.
It's hard to look past Katie.
But I'd have Brady up there, up high.
So I'm not saying it shouldn't be in the top 16.
You feel at the time.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be in the top 16. Oh, look, in terms of how you feel, obviously it was magic. But in terms, it's how you feel versus
How
achievement.
It's not the greatest
point.
achievements upon reflection.
So sorry, it's not greatest achievement. It's how it made me feel. Is that the criteria?
In the
To
moment.
the nation.
How it made me feel.
Exactly.
Right.
Did it make you feel warm inside? Did Pat Hickey's arse make you feel warm inside?
No.
Between the two tonight, how are you going to side?
Sorry, what are we talking about?
More stuff to play you here. We've been out and about asking people for their sense of whether or not Chicago or Shane Lowry should actually win. Here's some of the reaction to Ireland's historic win over the All Blacks in Chicago. Have a look.
Off the ball Irish sporting moment of the 2010s. We've had some seriously good clashes, and this one's one of the top. Shane Lowry's open victory in 2019 versus Ireland's victory over New Zealand in Chicago. Which was the better moment? We asked Dublin.
Ireland beat New Zealand, Chicago. Rugby's much more popular than Shane Lowry is.
Than New Zealand. Probably rugby, yeah?
Shane Lowry, 100%.
I wouldn't be a big rugby fan, no. I think it's overhyped.
Overhyped?
Yeah, overhyped.
Why is it overhyped?
Sure, beating New Zealand in the friendly.
Oh, no.
I have to say Ireland versus New Zealand, just that rugby's more popular in Ireland, so more people are watching.
Shane Lowry, without a doubt. Shane Lowry is, everyone's gunning for the open. It was on home soil. It was just a kind of a great occasion in the first place.
The game is good, yeah. It's man the match, yeah. Good goal, wasn't it?
In terms of fanfare and everyone getting behind it, I'd say New Zealand.
I'm a rugby man, so I'd say Ireland beating New Zealand.
Beating the All Blacks was a huge, not to
Better than Lowry?
Yeah, I'd lean towards Lowry, on that occasion.
It's unexpected.
I think if Ireland could beat the All Blacks in a competition, that would be bigger.
Shane Lowry, I think it's a more difficult thing to do. An individual in a sport with millions rather than a one-off rugby game against sort of one other team.
Lowry. It was a good game for Ireland, but it's Mickey Mouse game, where New Zealand had a half team out,
Mickey Mouse.
Shane Lowry winning the Open.
Shane Lowry winning the Open.
Shane Lowry winning the Open.
Yeah, probably the second one. Ireland beating New Zealand? Yeah. You say the second one as if you're not really...
I like cricket as much as the next guy, but...
So straight away, two different.
Ireland would beat New Zealand, you can't beat the All Blacks.
So we're beating twice.
Rugby.
And you?
Probably the rugby, yeah.
So Shane Lowry wins the Open in 2019, but it's not enough for the Irish people. Ireland beating New Zealand in Chicago is seen as the better moment. Who'd have thought it?
Well, we'll see. The poll is now open. It's live. I want to just remind you a little bit of some of the aftermath of it. For your consideration, here are the sounds of Chicago first. Yeah. Here's their reaction to Ireland's historic win over the All Blacks in Chicago.
I just thought that was the best way to start the programme this morning. Chicago is all of our kinds of town.
And US Vice President Joe Biden is the latest to pass on his congratulations to the Irish rugby team. The boys in green beat the All Blacks overnight in Chicago.
Ended a drought of 111 years for Ireland to beat New Zealand. We had to travel to do it, but by God, they put on one hell of a show.
New Zealand's side were on an 18-match winning streak heading into last night's game.
It was a fantastic 40-29 win.
Yeah. Oh, how we all believed anything was possible in the aftermath of that. What about the sounds of Shane Lowry's open win? Have a listen.
Huge crowds here, and they are cheering for Shane Lowry, but they
try to utilize the slope from the right. Just left to the hole. Wow. Hole on the left side to me.
How about this, guy? Shane Lowry has played the par fours this week in 9 under par. That is
close, really. Little right. Okay.
And here he comes.
They pile in behind Lowry here. Lowry comes underneath and emerges.
And Ireland's Shane Lowry is an Open champion at Royal Portrush.
Yeah, so the 149th Open, a clear, easy victory in the end for Shane Lowry, his first major, a big moment.
Yeah, it was a fantastic year, obviously, as well. Was it Dubai at the start of the year, Abu Dhabi at the start of the year? That was, it was the National, wasn't it, in Abu Dhabi, where he won in January or February, and you kind of knew then at that point that Shane Lowry is back, and this was going to be a fairly successful year for him. And like it's obviously a big step between that and actually going on to win a major, and then just having that comprehensive lead going down the home stretch. Actually having that ability to soak it in, from his perspective, I'd imagine, was just hugely pleasurable. It was
the early votes, the first 150 votes. We've been open 15 minutes. What do you think?
It's not going to be a hammering, I reckon, but I just really can't see the public voting for Chicago en masse over Shane Lowry, and I think Shane Lowry fully deserves to win this.
What's the score? Give me a score.
60-40.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say it's hard to get beyond like rugby supporters. Won't be too many rugby supporters going to be voting for Shane Lowry, is there? You get a sense of that, don't you?
Well, I
if you love your rugby,
there was a good point made. If we'd beaten them in a competition, like as in if we'd.
Yeah, but then we saw the other extreme, and Mickey Mouse. I mean, I've never seen a friendly game or involved in a friendly rugby union game. It just doesn't exist. Like, but I think you're right in terms of the pressure of a World Cup. Yeah, absolutely.
Who's brave enough to admit they voted for a glorified friendly? I am. #Chicago, says Tommy Rooney.
And Tommy was there.
Tommy was there. We all had the time of our lives. It's 70-30 at the moment in favour of Shane Lowry. Which feels about right.
Yeah, it's about right. Shane Lowry could go all the way and win this. As I said, I think it was definitely the most warmly received Irish sporting moment of the entire decade.
There's also recency bias because it just happened this summer. It was like, yeah, of course I'm voting for that.
But he is our most likeable sports person.
At the moment, definitely, yeah. And I think the rugby team didn't do themselves any favour with the last tournament.
Well, that recency bias also comes into play.
Yeah, so they get massive super minus bonus points, and he gets plus.
Oh, that shouldn't come into it.
That's how human life works.
Oh no, I understand. Yeah, that might be in people's mind at the moment, but that shouldn't be the case, should it? The level we were playing at, I mean, it'd be
so good.
The level we were playing at a couple of years ago in the rugby, and I'm no rugby, so I don't, very little, but the level we were playing at for a period of time under Smith there, around the time we beat it. There's nobody better than us. We're beating everybody. We just couldn't lose.
We're super aggressive, super
that
confident.
level of performance.
No mistakes.
Talking about Liverpool last 6 months of the season. This season, as good as they are, significant drop off. It's not unexpected.
No.
It'd be more of a surprise if they didn't. There wasn't that little drop off.
Didn't we lose our next 2 test matches after that? After Chicago, we lost to New Zealand in Dublin. Then we lost to Scotland in the opening.
They should have not won that game. They should have had 2 men sent off because they concussed players with flying, swinging tackles. They should have been down to 13 men. We would have won that game. Sean O'Brien's over the try line and drops the ball.
We go to Edinburgh and get beaten then at the start of the next season.
But the bus was late, Owen. You can't. I mean,
the
what?
bus was late. The bus was very, very late, and they scored an early try off the front of the line at them. They was I think that we were back in. I think we were brought back into line because we didn't win the Grand Slam in 2017. Now I know we ended 2017 Six Nations very strongly. Like that was when we beat England when they were going for the Slam.
When was when England came to the Viva and turned us over? Was that the?
That's this year.
No, that was this year.
No, I think we beat England in 2017.
Yeah.
When they're
we beat England back to back, 17
and 18
home and 18 over there.
But that was a worry for me when England came to the Viva. They played well that day, didn't they?
That was the end. Writing was on the wall at that point.
Felt as if,
something's gone wrong here. Oisin Langan says, I love the win against the All Blacks, but Shane Lowry's open win tops it. I think that's kind of where we are here. Which is your favourite child territory? Brendan Meehan says, Ireland have been close and denied and also comprehensively beaten by the All Blacks for years. Adrian McGrath says, Chicago was a challenge match against a demotivated team. New Zealand proves reality a week later. And then it has to be Ireland beating the All Blacks, says Brendan. Ireland beating the All Blacks was better than Dana winning the Eurovision.
That is hyperbole of the highest order.
Even Johnny Logan?
Well, Johnny's second win is like iconic.
Is Johnny's second win the best Eurovision win of all time?
Well, because it means the first one wasn't a flash in the pan.
That's true.
Yeah, what was the title of the second one? What's another year? Was that the first one?
Hold Me Now was first and then...
No,
was the other.
Was it? Was the other way around?
Yeah, Hold Me Now was 93 or 94.
Check your collection when you go home, Jay. It's still there.
Riverdance 95, isn't it?
Yes.
And who wins Riverdance here? Oh, I Am the Light and the Dream.
What's her name?
One, I don't know.
I can't remember. She represented Ireland twice. She represented us a couple of years ago, didn't she?
Did she?
Didn't she come back?
I think she wrote the song. I'm not sure she performed it.
She did perform it as well. Don't know.
You should probably know the name.
Eurovision's dead. The Eurovision's dead. Has been for a long time.
Only to us. The rest of the continent woke up to it. We were the hipsters.
They can have it. They can have it.
They colonised it, and we're no good. I think
it's like VAR.
It's like they've introduced VAR to the Eurovision Song Contest the last 10 years, destroyed it.
Sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night for only 2 reasons. One of them is that Dublin will eventually catch Kerry in the All-Ireland Stakes, and second
is you've run out of hair gel. You run out of hair gel in the morning when you wake up before you
ruin my
come into the studio.
punchline. But yours is better. Yours is better.
What was your punchline?
No, I was just saying that, sometimes I just realise it's ruined now. That Sweden are going to catch on in the Eurovision, but let's hope it never happens, and let's hope the hair gel thing never happens either, because that really would be a dark day. One day it'll come out, but I won't be able to use it anymore.
Right. If you want to get in touch with us this morning, you can use the hashtag OTB AM. It's 8:57. Now we're here with you until about 9:30 this morning. Going to hear from Andy Lee in just a couple of minutes' time. He's obviously coaching at the moment a number of different fighters. He's in California, is that where he is?
Yeah.
So you had to get up bright and early this morning to talk to him. What's the fight this week?
Jason Quigley is in the ring for the first time since his defeat earlier in the year, and obviously working with Andy at this point. It's an interesting chat, as you said, that we recorded before going on air. One of my favourite parts about Andy Lee's philosophy when it comes to boxers in the United States is that you can't just go over there and win. You've got to win in style. You've got to knock out your opponents, and that's something we touch on here. So he's fighting tomorrow night in California.
All right, we're going to get to that in just a minute, but last bit on Chicago versus Shane Lowry. Obviously, we had the golf dorks, Joe and Nathan, in studio together last night. It was like Golf Weekly taking over the radio show. Obviously, they bring you Golf Weekly every week of the year, 30 weeks of the 50 weeks, whatever it is. Surely, obviously, they were making the case for Shane Lowry, right? Weren't they? Obviously, right? Yeah.
New Zealand, Chicago. I must say, I think actually, and I was in Chicago for this, I think, and I watched the Dublin, New Zealand win at home on my couch. I still actually think it might be the Dublin win.
Why?
Well, I just can't shake the feel that New Zealand, both literally in terms of the players they were missing, and also spiritually, emotionally, motivationally, every which way you want to talk about it, were a good bit away from their best.
They were going for a world record winning streak.
I know, and I accept that. It's hard to argue with that, but I just felt there was such a brilliant build-up to the Dublin match where New Zealand, hang on, these have actually beaten us now. And this is like, so this is like world number one against world number two. This was the sign-off of the year. And that most certainly was a game they really, really were massively motivated to win. And usually when you've just beaten them, you definitely don't think you're going to do it a second time in a row. So in terms of like the achievement and the moment and the atmosphere in the Aviva, that kind of jumps out for me. Because, you know, it's a weird thing, actually, having been in Chicago. The atmosphere was really weird. There were just a bunch of Yanks there who didn't have a clue what was going on.
Who were just,
I swear to God,
there for the experience.
The row in front of me, there was a woman talking to the guy behind her, and the two of them did not pay a blind bit of heed to what was going on. I mean, there'd be...
Was that JP?
JP was in the corporate section.
Was he on Tinder in the middle of the match? Possibly.
He was busy phone. So that was a little bit off-putting.
Right.
And so they would, you know, a massive roar would go up when Ireland had maybe we kind of won a penalty in a scrum, and they would turn around and see a heap of bodies in the ground and be like, yeah. So it was kind of hard as Ireland was scoring tries not to be still eavesdropping on their conversation. That's a very specific complaint. But it was a weird atmosphere in the stadium versus this unbelievable atmosphere which, you know, ripped through the TV in Dublin. The thing that Chicago has going for it, obviously, is it was the first time, and you have to, that counts for something for sure.
Well, there were also several parts to that day.
Yeah.
So there was the pre-match.
Yeah.
And Anthony Foley had just died, and the players gathering in the number 8 was one of the more touching moments of Irish sport of all time.
Yes.
It was just so appropriate at that time. There was the way Ireland played, that they just absolutely blitzed the All Blacks in the first half. But then the All Blacks come back, and it being Irish rugby and Irish sport, we know what happens next. They just go and win. But they didn't. Actually, for once, Ireland grounded out and finished the game brilliantly.
OTB AM.